here in the room, and if he gets a little invasive with the keyboard, I'll have to eject him. We'll see how it goes.
We should be live, I think. If I can find out which screen my mouse is on. There it is. There she blows. And if I can figure out finding the live stream, because I shut the window earlier. Silly me. But hello, listeners. There will be people there. Let me transition that, and you should see us in all our glory. There are, as you can tell by the stream image, which is new, there are only two of us this evening. Let me mute that quickly.
But really, how many more do you need? We only ever promised the third one's like a bonus.
Yeah, as long as you got the OGs, that's good. So, yes, there we are. Okay, the stream is there. Live chat. I will pop that into hello, Joshua Craft. Sat waiting. We were just bullshitting before we started. That's why we're late. It wasn't technical reasons. It was pure ignorance on our behalf.
Well, no, not ignorance. We knew we were running late. We were just in the middle of talking about shit.
Yeah.
So ineptitude, not ignorance, Michael.
Yeah. Probably the better
It's ineptitude,
term.
you incompetent bastard.
So I have got a fuck ton of notes just to run through this month, what we've been up to since we last saw you. Obviously, there's been a Christmas. So a ton of movie watching. We watched, Paula and I, that is, the Harry Potters again, all of them. Sort of started late November on the run up to Christmas. Went through all of those
Right,
again.
Michael, have you been watching? So the AI videos are just almost a plague. I mean, apparently some new tool came out that lets people type in, make me a video with kittens skiing. And they're out there lacing up their boots and skiing, you know. And now any asshole that can do this is flooding YouTube with them, right? But there has been a fairly funny little burst of AI quick videos of exactly that, like what you were talking about. Have you seen any of those?
The ones I've seen, so I've seen AI videos. The ones I've seen are generally like political stuff. Oh, watch the Houses of Parliament in uproar when somebody says this, and it's like, no, somebody coughed or something. Oh my God, it's just like such fake bullshit. It's unbelievable, and it's that prevalent. It's annoying and getting in the way of legit stuff.
Oh, yeah, no. I think there should actually be, in like Rumble and YouTube and any others, I think there should be a legit like AI category, and you're only allowed to post AI in there and no AI outside of that.
Yeah. Yeah. We watched the Harry Potters. We then watched all
the ones I was talking about, those, Harry Potter. Have you seen the Harry Potters?
No.
All right, real quick. One off. Pop in YouTube and just search Harry Potter Chernobyl. They are putting them into the most, like, for some reason, AI and Harry Potter plus any situation. Just check the Chernobyl one and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Harry Potter and the Chernobyl nuclear power plant.
So, like, the thing is, all these videos have the exact same thing. It's AI, it's Harry Potter. I don't know shit about Harry Potter, but I'm starting to recognize all the main characters in Harry Potter from the AI videos. That's how prevalent they are. But it's like this engine. It must be the Harry Potter AI video engine, because apparently it takes no more talent than typing Harry Potter birthday party. Harry Potter house fire at elderly retirement home. It's Harry Potter.
So we also watched the Wallace and Gromit films. There's been a couple of new ones come out over the last few years. We've not really kept up to date with them, so we went back to the beginning, watched them all. Apart from the latest one, we never got up to the latest one, but went through all those, and then went. So there's a movie. Obviously, you know, The Shining. There's a couple of movies sort of based around that. The old one is Room 237, and that kind of breaks down some of the mythology around The Shining. Oh, was Kubrick signaling the moon landings were fake? Or how do you know when Jack is dreaming and when it's a real sequence and all of that? So they break all of that down, lay out like a map of the hotel and all of this. So there's a lot of interesting takes on the film. A new one came out recently called Shine On. That's I prefer Room 237, but Shine On, it was okay. Didn't really go into too much, new detail. But then, as I'm watching that, I got suggested like another video by the same filmmaker called JFK-X, Solving the Crime of the Century. And this is just like, oh my God, it's got to be the worst JFK documentary ever. It's just absolute lunacy. And I can't remember now, I'm having a mental block, what he actually thought, who he actually thought did it. But it was just... that was it. JFK faked his own death. He had a movie-type swab that he was holding up on his face. As you see him lean forward, he leans forward, holds the swab against his cheek. Jackie leans over, pulls the cord on the swab, it explodes, and then they drive away and they switch bodies. Someone goes to the hospital, JFK jets off somewhere else and lives out the rest of his days in peace with one of his mistresses. It's just fucking absolute nonsense. And this guy's on screen, no, that's legit what happened. Have you seen the squabs? They're really good these days. Fuck off. Absolute nonsense. I then went... I knew there was a new Nosferatu film coming out and a vampire movie. I like horror movies. I'm not really overly fussed about vampire movies, but I knew there was a new Nosferatu coming out. So I went back and watched the original, the silent one from 1922. And it's a good film. I've seen it before, but obviously it's very dated. But watch the new one. It's okay. Could have been an hour shorter, but just basically retells the same story as the original Nosferatu. The other night I went back and watched Van Helsing, just as I was doing something else. It was kind of background. Not a great film, but you get to see Kate Beckinsale in tight trousers and boots for most of the movie, which is no bad thing. And then I think it's probably before Christmas now, but a new Philomena Kunk film came out, Kunk on Life. So I watched that as well a couple of weeks ago. That's pretty funny, definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, I just downloaded it and I have not watched it yet.
Yeah, you need to. Good film.
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah. TV. There's a show called Bad Sisters. Came back for season 2. Set in Ireland. There's like 5 sisters. In the first series, well, I probably won't spoil too much of it, but basically someone dies and they try and cover it up, and shenanigans happens, and that came back for season 2. Yellowstone finished, so I've been watching that. That was pretty good. I enjoyed that. Started watching, did we finish? No, we finished it the other night, Landman, which is by the same guy who did Yellowstone, and its spin-offs, Taylor Sheridan. Landman would be good if it wasn't for the female characters who are just so fucking annoying. Like, I get it, the guy's a misogynist, and these characters are just over the top, but it's just too much. It's really annoying watching it, but the basis of the show is pretty good, and it could be much better if those 2 women would just fuck off.
Well, I found the whole thing, man, like that whole Yellowstone and the other one you just mentioned, that whole series,
Landman,
to be just a ridiculosity. I mean, you look at the way they ended that Yellowstone was, just them kicking.
Oh, I've lost your audio. Is that me or you? Let me jump up here and see. Should I do it in there instead? I shall drop the call and just switch browser. hello, hello. Are you back? No. Oh, fuck. Oh, it did this before. I can't remember what it was. In fact, it was on the old mixing desk, that. And I swapped it. Let me stop that. Yeah, I'll stop that. Exit that. Close that. Hello, hello, hello. Well, I think you can still hear me. I shall reconnect to Scott momentarily. Say something in chat if you can still hear me. Are you there?
I am there, and your audio is clean now.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. So
The way it sounded on my end was like when a microphone battery dies.
right. So the computer I run the call on, I had, I got it all set up, and then I cloned the hard drive. I think a hard drive died, so I set it all up again, cloned it. So I've literally now just whipped the side off, switched the hard drive in it, and booted again. So we'll see what happens, but disk use is way up at the moment, but this particular disk hasn't been booted in a while, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully we will keep going.
All right.
Let me switch back to the video on the feed. So carrying on with TV, we mentioned, or you mentioned, Silo last month, so I think I've got about half the final episode left to watch. So I've been going through that the last couple of weeks. It's good. It's interesting. I think it's maybe to me a little bit better than Fallout. I think season 2 is slightly weaker perhaps than season 1, but you do get to find out, a few things that you don't obviously in season 1. But I've been enjoying that. Like I say, I think I've got about half an episode left to finish off. So family-wise, my ex-brother-in-law, my ex-wife's brother, youngest brother, dropped dead a couple of weeks ago. He was 47. They don't know what happened. They say they might not find out what happened, which I don't really get, but you never know when your time is up. 47 is no age. I mean, he didn't really look after himself that well, but still, he's left behind a young wife who is devastated, as you can well imagine. Games-wise, so quite a bit of stuff games-wise. So over the Christmas break, so school is shut down for 2 weeks over Christmas. It's the only time that school completely closes. Has Scott gone? I seem to have lost Scott from the call now. Oh dear. What is happening? Oh dear, what is happening? So, let's try and get Scott back. Oh, it's going well this month, isn't it? Let's kick the year off to a good start. Rebooting yet again. So can people still hear me? I know you won't hear Scott. Can you still hear me? Or am I just talking to myself? You can still hear me. Or, yes, I'm talking to myself. I'm not sure which. Oh, now, of course. Getting Windows ready. Don't turn off your computer. Okay, I won't. So obviously we are almost at the end of the month. The show will be out soon. Probably not tomorrow. Maybe the day after. Maybe not. I don't know. But it won't be long. Come on. What is this computer doing? Well, it's being replaced tomorrow. That's what it's doing. But for now, what is it doing? So, who's in chat? Martin Laws, Joshua Craft, Stone Cold Alan, Retro Hamer. Good evening, chaps. I'm beginning to wonder if this computer is ever going to reboot. I know it says don't turn off your computer, but I am considering turning off my computer. Actually, you'll still be able to see Scott, but maybe not hear him. He's making signs and holding them up, so I'll put him on screen. In the meantime, I am going to turn off this computer. Ow. That hurt one's ears. In. Yes, it is. All right, let's try and do that again. Boom. Well, I'm there. And there he is. Well. Can you hear me and can I hear you? UK fucked up.
I can hear you.
BRB. There he is. This computer fucked up and I was saying when I came back, I cloned the hard drive. So I literally just swapped them over. The one that I put in, disk usage was 100 100%, so I'm guessing it was just doing every single update in the world since last time it was booted, which was a while ago. So we'll see how far we get this time, and we shall try again, and I'll finish what I was saying, and then Scott can have a go. So games-wise, yes, quite a bit happened games-wise. So, as I was saying, school shuts down for 2 weeks over Christmas. It's the only time that school's actually shut, and I get a full 2 weeks off. I mean, I can do that at other times, but it's the only time of the year that school is completely shut. So I get up to some shenanigans. I started up some machines in the arcade that hadn't turned on in a while. So I just went round, booted everything up, booted a few systems up as well that hadn't been run in a while. Everything in the arcade, to my surprise, just booted up and ran absolutely perfectly. So I was pretty pleased about that.
That's because you're not doing an arcade party. If you have people over, one thing has to break.
Yeah, yeah.
And so do I.
I didn't invite people over. That was the mistake. Although I booted up the Wii U. That hadn't been run in a while. And a couple of the kids came around, wanted to play, I think, Simpsons Hit and Run. And the hard drive had died in that. So I got them going on the Steam Deck. I docked that to the TV and what have you. So they got to play, but I had to rebuild the Wii U hard drive and reinstall a load of stuff on that. I played through a couple of games that I go through every so often. Super Mario Land, the original one on the Game Boy, went through that. Super Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy, 6 golden coins. Went through that again. Fantastic game, just love it. And then I went back to some games that I had when I first had the C64, but they just weren't the kind of games that I would dedicate the time to get into, learn all the controls, read the manual and what have you. And they were Dam Busters and Hero Quest. So Dam Busters, you get to fly the Lancaster bomber, and you end up with, I think it's about 6 or 7 locations around the aircraft. So, forward gunner, rear gunner, pilot, engineer, bomb man, and navigator. And you jump around these different positions, and you've got to do all different tasks and keep the plane flying level at the right altitude, approach the dam at the right speed. When these sort of homemade sites that they had line up with the end walls of the dam, then you can drop
the double
bomb.
Spotlights.
Yes.
Genius idea.
Yeah, brilliant. And when everything lines up, you drop the bouncing bomb. So obviously you've got to start that spinning at the right time and do that. So I went through and completed a mission on Dam Busters and blew up the dam. So it's just something I've always wanted to do, never dedicated the time to it. So I did that. And another one I'd never really got into. I know it's based on the board game. I think I played the board game donkeys years ago, not since then. But that's Hero Quest on the C64. The game is very faithful to the board game. Definitely well worth a look. There's about 10 or 11 missions on it, I think. Maybe is it 11? Is it 14? I forget. And I don't know why I'm confusing those two particular numbers. But there's a bunch of levels on it anyway. So I went through a few of those. Not all of them, but yeah, just something, again, I had wanted to do. And then I haven't done any sim racing for quite a while. So I fired up that computer, and that one wouldn't boot. Well, it would kind of boot, but not properly. But it was running Windows maybe 8 or 8.1, I think it would have been, and it just wouldn't boot. So I've rebuilt that and reinstalled the games that I'm going to be playing. And so I was looking around for button boxes. So when you're playing, modern Sims or more modern Sims, Assetto Corsa isn't that modern, but that's one of the ones I play. You need controls for things like your brake bias, your traction control, anti-lock brakes, things like that, turbo pressure. And there aren't enough buttons on the wheels, so you end up with a USB button box. And I was shopping around for them, and there's some on Amazon, but they're out of stock. They don't know when they'll be back in. Those were the ones that I really wanted. There are others, but they're like £300 or something like that, and it's not something I want to put that much money into. So I made my own, and if I can switch to the right camera without crashing the machine. There we go. Oh, it's moved slightly. And the colour. Oh, the colour's sort of come back. So there's the button box. Just designed the case, 3D printed it, put a little stripe on because I had some red plastic that I needed to use up. So they're the buttons, only quite small, but that's all they need to be. And the buttons, so the case was nothing because I 3D printed it at work. The buttons, you get 14 in a pack for £6, so I bought 2 packs just to get enough colours. They come pre-wired, you can buy them with or without the pre-wiring. And I just mocked that up. It's a little overlay to go over it. It needs a bit of tweaking and things just moving slightly, but don't know if the camera will pick it up, but it's got like a carbon fibre look to it. And can you see the controls? So you've got like energy recovery, energy delivery, brake bias, anti-lock, traction control, turbo pressure, that kind of thing, a pause button. So I'm going to just finish mocking that up. So it's been a fun little project. And I've got a spare iPack as well. An iPack 2 that I had from an old arcade project. So I'm going to use that as the interface, a USB interface. So, yeah, it's cost me, like I say, about £14 for the buttons. And that's about it, as opposed to about £300 for a button box. So... it might be a news item later on, I can't remember, but we know the game, the PC game, Grand Prix 2, and someone has made a tool called x86 Grand Prix 2 that will allow you to install it on modern Windows because it's notoriously difficult to get it running these days. It wouldn't work on the PC that I'm using. I don't know if it's because I've got like a Pro edition of Windows 10 or what it is, whether it's like some library it needs that I've not got, but it is an early alpha and it wouldn't work, so I thought rather than fuck about with it and maybe get nowhere, I'll wait until it's maybe a few more versions down the road. But looks an interesting project. It may be a news item later. And that, after all of that rambling, is me for the last month.
Wow, what a month, Michael.
Mm-hmm. My busiest yet.
So, yeah, I watched the Silo closeout. Okay, I mean, I didn't read the books, and I don't have that much invested in it. It's sort of a neat idea. Definitely kind of telegraphed, okay, she gets back in, what are they going to do? They got to plug up the hole next season. I assume there'll be some great drama that they'll just get the hole closed at the last minute. And then, does the guy talk about what he saw once they realize that, they have to close the hole? Who knows? Okay, not the greatest thing ever, but not awful by any means. Yeah, gaming-wise, it's funny. I was talking with one of the younger dudes I know, and we were talking about this whole issue of gaming and availability and all that, and what's coming out, what isn't coming out, and and also like his generation's view on collecting and ownership, and we had a real neat discussion on it, and there's a couple of takeaways I wanted to bring up since it's something we've kind of talked about a good bit between us. So anyway, the first sort of point we had about the games, the lack of high quality games. So Random, I want to give Random credit. He had made the point, there's thousands of games for the Switch. Nintendo sold many games, they're doing very well. Well, I think they are, but unfortunately, see, I like new games. I am a classic gamer, but I think I prefer classic games. But I do like modern games because they progressively bring something to the table. Bigger, more expansive, more immersive worlds, right? Now, the problem now is we see companies retreating from doing anything like that. As I've said, there is no Titanfall 3, there is no Fallout 5, there is no new games of that scale. Where are these giant, mega titles, with immersive and complex worlds? They're just not there. And what it seems to me that certainly almost every major console, and somewhat in agreement with the studios, because the studios could say, well, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to make games. They've almost all just come to this common arrangement to abandon building big, expensive mega titles and just do a galaxy of quick develop Twitch games. Now, as we all know, I mean, the whole, bedrooms to billions concept that, certainly, we created a homemade game, certainly there's room in the market space for that. And I'm glad those people are given access to the console market. The problem is, I think Nintendo, PlayStation, Microsoft have largely seen this as a way to abdicate making quality games. Well, we'll just license this, we'll just get this giant library of thousands of games made by amateurs, right? The problem is, two guys in a rented apartment that they make their own little game studio, or one guy's labor of love for 5 years or whatever. You're going to get maybe neat, interesting games, but they're going to be smaller scale, Twitch games. You're not going to get, no one's going to make Fallout 4 as a home indie game. It's not happening, right? So definitely seems to me to be happening is that the marketplace is just seeding the will and the interest in making big mega titles for a giant galaxy of homemade shovelware. And the stuff that isn't shovelware certainly is not of the scale and caliber. I like both. I do like some of the small indie games, but that is not a replacement for that. And as we were talking about, the move to, because he was, I wouldn't say excited, but he was aware and, eager to kind of see where it goes, this concept that they may get rid of the Xbox, as a piece of hardware, and do kind of like Netflix, where you're buying access to a gaming world, that you can go in and play all these different games. And obviously the problem I brought up to him there was I said, okay, so what happens when ownership is revoked, when they say, well, you're no longer going to have access to that game? Okay. And then what happens when in the future that you want to replay these games? See, I got 50 years of gaming history in either direction of me, arcade and console. I have 50 years of gaming history that I can engage in, and I can go back and play all these great games, these consoles, play games I didn't get to play at the time. Not in this curated world, not in the online e-store. There's no ability. If it's gone, it's gone. And, for all the pious promises about, we'll never take it down. You'll always have access. Name one thing that you can download 10 years. Name one lifetime license you bought that hasn't been canceled within 10 years. It doesn't exist, So redefining ownership, what you're going to end up with is an e-store that you access on their terms. And since there will be no code locally, eventually once it's just the console is just a display device, or it's just an app that you can play the games remotely, there'll be no ability to, you're just doing a video server where you send responses back and you see the video. So if all the code's executing on that remote data farm, how the hell are you going to ever obtain that code to play those games ever? So now gaming is something that it's like watching Netflix, but you can't download the movie ever. It's going to a very ugly place. And, he had not thought of these things. He was just thinking of the convenience. But, no, I think it was an interesting discussion to have with the younger person that, he's not thinking of preservation yet. And, I brought up to him like the sheer number of games that existed, during our, childhood and young years and whatnot. And there are so many games that we just didn't get a chance to play, that somebody calls out and says, hey, I remember that game. Yeah, I saw it in a magazine. I never played it. And now you can do that. You won't be able to do that in this future. You just won't. And he was like, yeah, but space will be so cheap they'll be able to put it up any time. And I said, okay, great. Space is so cheap that Nintendo can put up every game they make, but they don't. So why? You're not
just on that. This week I signed into Netflix, and it said, last chance to watch, and it's a list of stuff that's going away. And one of them was a movie. You'll know the movie Hot Fuzz, which is like, it's a good few years old.
It's a mediocre B movie, yeah.
But it doesn't. What does it cost them disc space wise? It's negligible. So it's got to be the license, but even the license owner, why would the license owner say, okay, but in 5 years you've got to take it down? Why the fuck would they do that?
We don't want to make money after 5 years.
Exactly. So who is saying, yeah, we need to take Hot Fuzz down? Why? I just don't get it.
But they're doing it, though. You can't say they're not doing it when they're doing it. I don't want anything to do with that. I just want nothing to do with that. So yeah, I'm gonna take a pass on a new ecosystem. But yeah, I wish Random was here for that, but unfortunately he's not. So other than that, I I have been working diligently, and I will have Hardware Flashback finalized this week before I go back to work. um, I have been working on some robot projects for Hardware Flashback and all, and got some got some neat things to talk about. I got a couple robots that I'm doing some of the little guys and some of the big guys. So doing assessment of a couple robots that were in storage, and I'll be running through that. So I'm gonna kind of, I guess, do a parallel discussion of a lot of these different robots, and because some things will move at the pace. Like if I'm waiting for a part that I'm searching for, or waiting for a hit on eBay for some 30-year-old chip, that's what I'm doing. So we'll see how that goes. Got some cool stuff to do with it. Just did pick up some neat model stuff I wanted to share with you guys. I kind of build everything in radio control. Airplanes, helicopters, jets. Warbirds, trucks, cars. The only thing I never really messed with much is boats. But this one kit I had bought and built years ago, and it got just lost or destroyed in some international move. But I found one of these things that a guy listed on eBay, and the kit's still in production, but they changed the kit. So I got the original version, but I got this one here that a company called Dumas makes, and they're one of the bigger boat manufacturers. I'm not really a fan of their kit quality. They're the most prolific, but their wood quality is kind of crap because I don't know, it's not the best. But for a kit like this where it's just literally straight flat size, you have to do complex steam bending, no worries. But they are famous, it's not crap. I mean, I don't like their wood as much as other kits. But anyway, I'm not a big boat guy, but that is a Mississippi River boat paddler. So I'm going to deck it up, with a smoke unit, sound unit, gear reduction drive to run the paddle wheel. And then I'm going to stick just underneath it, about dead center, a outdrive, which is basically it's a pretty good electric motor with a propeller inside of a cage, and just stick that on the bottom of the thing. So the paddle wheel is nice. You don't want to get, this thing does not move fast well. It just doesn't. It's not a speedy boat. It's meant to be sort of stately and slow. But that said, if you want to pull it up and dock it, or turn it around real quick because there's a storm coming up, or 16 idiotic kids just got unleashed by their parents onto the local lake and are swamping towards your paddle wheel boat, and the parents do not give a shit that their kids are going to run all over it. So you got to get it back over and get it out of the water real quick. So having a modern propulsion, just go all right and drive it back, kind of helpful. But I'm going to build that. And then there's another one that one of the greatest kits by Tamiya, which is I think my favorite RC car company at this point. Tamiya had re-released a kit of a vehicle called the Fast Attack, which is this Special Forces buggy, right? So I finally, there's this one seller out of Japan that just imports stuff really reliably and actually insanely good prices. This thing the U.S. market just doesn't have. You can't go to a major retailer in the U.S. and buy this thing. But I got it from him for $140 delivered, and it's the whole kit, in brand new. I mean, it is brand new. It's just the only thing that's kind of funny is in America when you get Tamiya boxes, and I think in the UK from a couple of the hobby shops you and I have been in, they're shrink wrapped, right? But in Japan, they're not shrink wrapped. So the first time I ever got one, I was like, oh shit, it's open. And you open it up and everything's in there. And I finally just messaged. And one thing about the Japanese, you tend to get a straight answer, even if it's a tad obsequious. And I messaged this guy, said, hey, I'm not pissed or anything. I'm just asking. All the kits are shrink wrapped in America and in many places. Are the kits not shrink wrapped when they get to Japan, or do you cut them open and make sure they're complete, or what? I'm just curious why it's not shrink wrapped, because that is a collector thing in most places. And this guy got back to me. He said, "Oh yeah, they're just not shrink wrapped here. I didn't know they're shrink wrapped overseas." I'm like, "Okay, fair enough." So, but anyway, it's it's a neat dune buggy. It's got a machine gun on the front of it and all that. So, and then I got a couple others I'm finishing up. I got this one right here is a Wild Willie. So I've been working on this one. It's not done. There's still quite a bit of details to do. But I'm putting in a steering wheel that works. So basically, whenever you turn the wheel on the truck, the driver's head is going to turn and the steering wheel is going to turn. And then
That
I
looks
got
like it's
all
going to be
kinds of.
top heavy.
Oh, it is by far. So basically, the motor is situated here, and the battery pack is back here. So, and you see the wheelie bar. So it's just a wheelie monster. And of course, I put a very, very overpowered motor on it. So it's gonna it's just a stunt vehicle. It just does wheelies and runs around in circles and shit. But yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. So just a little RC stuff here, and so I did buy a new motorcycle that I mentioned, and it blew up. So they found out what was wrong. They don't know if it was Harley or Davidson, but one of those two fuckers. They put the second piston ring an incorrect ring and installed it upside down. So basically, it just bounced around in there until it didn't. And so they have obtained it had 640 miles on it. I mean, it wasn't even its first oil change. And they basically replaced the top of the motor, and I should be able to pick it up soon. But that was fun.
Where's
Michael,
where's the Indian up to?
Oh yeah, I would strongly suggest against ever purchasing anything from Polaris or Indian brand. I haven't really talked to this on the show. I'll make it a super, to the extent I can, a super short summary. I started buying Indians, and Indian is a modern company. They've been around so Polaris is the company, okay? And they make everything. They make side-by-sides. They make jet skis. They make snowmobiles. I mean, they're super well-known. And they had a tremendous body of experience in building small engine vehicles. So a number of years ago, they introduced a line called Victory Motorcycles. And it was meant to compete with Harley Davidson, which was the sole motorcycle in the American market space, practically speaking. There's some other novelty bikes, but they're not, not practical. So anyway, they release this thing, and they go a couple years, and the brand does well, and they decide, you know what? There used to be back in like 1903, when Harley Davidson began. Indian began pretty much the same year, and Indian and Harley Davidson, it was like Ford and Chevy. They basically competed against each other for decades. And post World War II, there's a pretty good economic slump. Indian didn't survive it. So the name went away. There's been no Indian motorcycle since like 1958. So Polaris bought the name, resurrected the brand. Okay. So I bought 4 bikes from them in 8 years. Now, some of them were different bikes, like a Scout's a smaller bike for like local stuff. 2 of them were just like replacements. We put a lot of miles on bikes. I can put, 150K on a bike in 2-3 years, So it's not something that, we do ride these things hard. And there are fewer Indian dealerships than Harley Davidson dealerships, and I just accepted that. So that, with Harley Davidson, you break down, you have a bearing fail, a drive belt break, whatever the hell. There's a Harley Davidson dealership you can walk to at the next exit, and, And so I've been riding, Indians like 8 years now. Never had a problem. This summer, early spring, early summer. My Indian Challenger, which is their water-cooled big touring bike, with the bags and all that. And it is, so the motorcycle club I'm a member of, we have a requirement that you must have an American-made motorcycle, okay. And it can't be a sport bike. Okay, so that left me with Indian or Harley. The Indian, way better engineered, way faster bike, right? So never really had any issues. I always kept a couple spares on hand, like, clutch cable, drive belt, things like that, in case something small broke. If there's something catastrophic happens, like, an engine fails, no matter what you're riding, it's going on a trailer, going home. So over 8 years, I never had a problem. But this, like I said, late spring, early summer, my taillight's stuck on. Okay, thing's under warranty. Go get it dealt with. Why am I going to, So I drop it off, and long story short, 3 months later, remember, I took it in for taillight stuck on. Traction control was broken. the ABS was broken, and then the bike wouldn't start. So after 3 months, and I need a fucking motorcycle back, right? After 3 months, and I even called like Indian Corporate. I opened up a case.
Oh, for fuck's sake, the sound's gone again. Let me do a little investigation. Is any sound working on this computer? Fuck's sake. Right, no sound is coming out of that computer at all. Hello. Hello, are you there?
Yes.
All right, I think
Apparently, David heard you as well.
I've got a dodgy ground loop. So
It did have that intermittent breaking up sound, like it was coming from your mic, not any computer issue.
Right. Okay. So
You sound crystal clear now.
that's good. So do you. Right. Let me.
We should do a show.
We should. There's currently cables and shit everywhere, but I can sort that out later. Right. Let's see what's going on with the stream because it doesn't look good on my screen up there. So
They're saying they can hear you.
all right. Graphically, it looks a bit of a mess. Oh no, it's fine on there. So what if I go there? Ooh. Now that doesn't look good. Let's see what happens. See if it's just a glitch at my end, and see when the stream image refreshes what happens. Because I don't really want to kill the stream and start it again.
No.
As long as we've got audio. Oh yeah, that looks pretty terrible. Right. So that OBS.
What looks terrible?
The video feeds going to the stream.
Oh yeah, so I see none of your video. Oh, and Piff made it. He just changed his name.
He did.
He's no longer working the Merkin.
I'm late, but it seems that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. You've missed some banter, some breakdowns, some of them computer, some of them mental. And the stream software seems to be glitching, so I will sort the video out. I think we'd got to the end of your
you can sort
Indian story.
Well, we were still. Well, yeah, but then almost, and we started talking about
almost,
Traxxas.
yeah.
So, I will cover Traxxas and then hit the Indian. I did a little looking on the Traxxas issue. I saw it was exactly what I thought it was. So we'll hit the Traxxas and we'll hit the Indian thing. So maybe we can save somebody out there a couple tens of thousands of dollars. So, long story short, on the Traxxas. So yeah, asbestos super illegal, super banned in the U.S. Not used for anything. I mean, it's not for like public facing materials. There are industrial applications for it. Tremendous. I mean, it's still a very vital substance. But in terms of consumer facing stuff, it's simply not used. So anyway, the asbestos, if it's in a powder or fiber form and you inhale it, it will high risk of lung cancer and all kinds of stuff. So not good for people. So they had any kind of consumer products would be removed from. So given that no company is going to make anything with asbestos in it that's consumer facing, I thought, well, how the hell would that be? And what would even be useful in an RC car? Now, let's say it was some kind of contamination, like, the company that was molding the bodies they also did asbestos work and they had asbestos contamination. But what it kind of makes sense. They use it on the slipper clutches. So basically, as the electric or gas motor engages, it allows for some kind of slippage, and as well as for braking use. So anyway, they made these pads out of a material that contains asbestos, right? So who did it? The Chinese. So, I mean, like, Traxxas doesn't make... Those RC cars are not manufactured in America. The RC cars have not been manufactured in America since the 80s with, like, Losi. They actually manufacture them here in the U.S. But kind of like, if you think, like in England, the whole Hornby train thing, none of those trains are made in England. Their offices may be there, some design work done there, but it's all overseas. So anyway, I'm sure strictly against policy and the wishes of Traxxas, whatever Chinese manufacturer obviously used asbestos in that process. And then it was discovered, and now it was recalled. That said, it's a non-issue because basically the friction clutch and the brake thing make almost no dust. They wear very gently, and it's in its it's in a solid form. There's no dust or powder or fibers for you to inhale. So you would have to take a razor blade or a piece of sandpaper, turn it into dust, and then get a straw and inhale it to cause any meaningful risk to yourself. It's of no risk to you in the kit, by what we're known what asbestos is known for. So, I mean, if I personally had this, I wouldn't worry about it, But yeah, there were legitimate uses for asbestos that are still around. Like there's a substance; it's basically grease with asbestos, and it's used to seal up as a putty to waterproof military vehicles and all that. It's of no danger to you. The asbestos is encapsulated in the grease. You can't inhale the dust that doesn't exist. So anyway, the Indian thing, the gist of that is the Indian Challenger, which is liquid cooled V-twin bagger, significantly faster and better handling than its Harley competitors. The brake light's stuck on. Okay, it's under warranty, not my problem. Drop it off, right? 3 months later, they had broken the anti-lock braking system, broken the traction control, and the bike would not start. And there was no end in sight of it being fixed anytime soon. So I called Indian Corporate. I said, this is bullshit. This just keeps going on. It's been 3 fucking months. And they were doing things like they'd get a part in, then they would look at their schedules and go, okay, we have an open slot in 2 weeks. We'll look at it then. Oh, it was the wrong part and we didn't know what we were doing. Well, we ran out of time, so we'll schedule another appointment in 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, oh, we're going to need this part, so let's order it. It'll be here in 2 weeks. 2 weeks comes, the part comes in. Oh, we'll see what our next open appointment is 2 weeks from now. So it was taking months to accomplish hours of work. So I told them, I said, put the fucking thing back, together in the same shape I gave it to you in. Brake lights don't work, whatever, and I'm coming to pick it up. So I did, and they did not put it back together. So basically, I have a bike that can't start, won't run, and is of no value. I mean, I'm just gonna eBay it. I'm not fighting them. I'm done. And the thing is, like in my world, in the motorcycle club world, everybody has American-made bikes almost exclusively, and the Indian was fighting for a presence in that world, and that's the world that all the independents, that's what they're seeking to emulate. They want to kind of borrow on that image, and they see like you watch Sons of Anarchy, they're all riding around on Harleys. I gotta have a Harley to look like that, So Indian was struggling for a presence in the Harley market area. And, somebody, like myself, as being active in a motorcycle club and then having, a presence in terms of like, I've got an Indian and I was a good brand ambassador. And that, people say, well, how come you're riding an Indian, not a Harley? Well, let me tell you why. It's faster, turns better, stops better, it's better engineered, more reliable. The one problem I had in it is over 5 years, 8 years of Indians, a tail light broke. However, their ineptitude and buffoonery cascaded a broken taillight into a total motorcycle failure. Now, the caveat here is that, I know how this stuff works, but here's the problem. You can't just swap out this module, because if you do, the other modules don't communicate with it. You have to affiliate them and then pair them and exchange data. You can't do that without Indian software. Indian doesn't make that software public. So even though I could resolve this in an afternoon, I can't. So my option is put the motherfucker on eBay, sell it, and call it a day. Because I wrote a check for that bike 4.5 years ago. I've already got my use out of it. But, that was not cool. That's not how you do things. So I said, fuck it. I'll go out and buy a Harley, right? That's my only other option. So what's the best Harley they make? Oh, the Road Glide CVOST. It's got a lot of letters after it. It's got to be cool. So I buy this thing, and it is their best, highest performance Harley Davidson, which means it's the best, highest performance Harley Davidson, meaning any 500cc sport bike walks off and leaves it. It's not a performance bike. But okay, fine. I think it's not cheap. I mean, it's $43K for a motorcycle, right? So I buy this thing, 6 days after I buy it, I'm on a ride, and as I'm pulling into the gas station, and I had a bunch of people behind me that saw it, and not a hint of trouble until all of a sudden, just smoke at the back of this thing, and it was like significant. So I called the dealership. I said, hey, look, so I got this bike 6 days ago, and this is Sunday at 11 a.m. And I want to say, to their credit, they hopped in a truck with a trailer, drove 3 hours down to where I was, loaded up the bike and myself, dropped me off at home, had the bike in a dealership, diagnosed it that next week, got all the parts, and they were doing the work on it in pretty rapid succession, which is, they're doing their job. So, yeah, I bought a Harley Davidson, blew up, and now they're fixing it. So, unfucking believable the luck I had with bikes just this last week. But no, that's it. Let's talk about gaming, Michael. We should talk about retro gaming and things like that.
We should probably do some news items. Hopefully, everything will keep running. Fingers crossed. And we'll see how many news items we get through. We've been going an hour and 20 and not done one yet. If there's some that I think Random might have good input on, or Sparkle, then we could leave them, because we do have quite a few this month. But anyway, kicking things off, one from the Random one, called Balls of Steel, according to him. He says, friend of the show, John St. John, is considering buying the Duke Nukem IP so he can try and resurrect it. I don't know if there's an update on that, because that came in 3 days before Christmas, so there might be an update on it since. I don't know. I mean, it's a good IP. Have we seen the best of Duke Nukem? The last game wasn't exactly great, was it? But
wow, he would have. I mean, he's not a developer; he's a voice actor. Not no. I mean, just stating reality. No insult intended. Here, just a voice actor, you silly scam. But no, I he would obviously have to then get a studio, and he would have to do that at a budget that is significant.
But having said that, this story doesn't necessarily mean he's making a game. It says he's considering buying the IP. So, I mean, it could be lunchboxes, could be a license to Stern for the pinball, it could be anything like that. So I can see the sense in that.
I think Duke Nukem would make a great pinball, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So you can put some magnetic balls and staples.
Pick up the trash.
Go for the out hole. I always do.
Yeah.
So speaking of pinball, now is a great time to bring it up. There's a Stern I got my eye on. Maybe it's time for a new Stern. It's been a little while. Stern is coming out with a Dungeons and Dragons pinball. Now, I have the original Dungeons and Dragons, the one with the beautiful double topper, and it's just a gorgeous game, right? And it doesn't play exceptionally well, but it is just one of the most beautiful, artistically beautiful games I've ever seen. Today, I think you kind of get the whole 9 yards. There are very few bad games, or even if they're not interesting to me personally, I can look at it and see that they're pretty full featured, right? And this one's looking good. It looks like it might have a little video feature kind of buried in the play field. It's nice backlight. I mean, it looks really good. It looks like something I would absolutely walk over to and play in a heartbeat. Got cool dragon in it, cool beholder. I hope that I unfortunately I think they might be doing the bit where they have a dragon in all three versions. They just basically make the dragon red in the super edition. They make the rails red and the dragon red. Okay, great. It looks kind of good. Mike, have you seen this thing at all?
Yeah, I saw this when it came in. Looked through the pictures. I'm doing the same now. Yeah, it does look good. I mean, and it is a great IP, Dungeons and Dragons, no doubt about it.
Now, to me, Dungeons and Dragons is still the paper and pencil game, and maybe the later video games, and to other people, it's a completely different thing in the modern world. It is truly different, but no, I like it. The gelatinous cube full of like bones and skulls and weapons, and a little sigh is cool. The whole tavern, where you get your supplies and go out into the adventuring world. The way the spinners, like when the ball hits it, they're actually dice. That's just pretty cool.
Yeah.
The dragon holding the ball. I see a lot of potential in this thing. So when it hits, I really look forward to seeing this thing. So I might be getting a new Stern, I think.
Yeah. What was your last new pen?
Kiss.
Oh, yeah.
So, been a few years.
And what's the price difference between that and this?
Probably about $2,000. They've gone up. Yes, they have. So, got one here I'm just gonna hit because I saw it kind of lipped out at me, and good old random. Submitted by Random. A graveyard. A graveyard of PS2 games in Iraq. Well, Mike, you ever been to a graveyard?
I haven't, but I wouldn't mind. It sounds good.
Sounds tasty.
Yeah. I don't know about in Iraq.
So, according to the article here, it shows a graveyard of PS2 games. All right. PlayStation 2 fans showed a ton of nostalgic video games from the early 2000s piled up in a DVD shop in Iraq. I was going to say, if it was outside of like Talil or one of the former U.S. bases, I could see some troops sitting there, fuck this game. Fuck this game. Fuck that game. Peace. And they find them jammed under a Connex 15 years later. But it says they were in a DVD store. So somebody found a bunch of them. And, oh, yeah, it says here, the discs aren't original, though, but bootleg copies. Yeah, no shit. So there is a, I think I actually have some here. Let me look. Maybe not. No, actually, I think, yes, okay, I have one here. I have a collection of these things locked away somewhere. So, Mike, here's a little piece of history. See that?
I do see that. I can't see the writing, but I can see.
Oh, okay, let me bust it out. It says, best selection of 747 cassette. And you see how it's number 18.
Yeah.
So, the way this works, this is from Iraq. The way it works, and Saudi has 747 too, they're everywhere. So, 747 is a cassette store, well, cassettes, CDs, media store, right? Mm-hmm. Back when I was there, it was cassettes. And now they've moved on to, I think, 8-tracks. But the idea is, like, you walk in, and some of them, like the super popular stuff, they'll have already made up. But you go up to the counter, and you're like, hey, I want to see the book. And they have this big book there. And it's like alphabetical order. It's usually in Arabic and English. And you go down, you're like, okay, I want to buy Kiss, Rock and Roll Over. Okay? So you go down, and you're like, Kiss, Rock and Roll Over. Okay? And let's say it's like, the equivalent of $2. So you give them $2. And then they go in the back, and they take this cassette, and they have a dubbing gear. Yeah. And they get the original master, maybe. When I say master, it's like, a copy they bought
the
from
best
the US,
copy they've got.
Or it's the best copy they've got. That's exact, Mike. Those are the words I was looking for. So they then dub off your copy, right? It works that way with software, too. And, back then it was discs. And then later, of course, it was CDs and whatnot. But, yeah, I got a ton of these 747. I bought a shit ton of these things, man. And you would go to 747 and like, okay, I want, this thing here, and they dub it off, So anyway, there were no PlayStations when I was there, but I know the exact kind of place, where this would be. So That's kind of funny.
So one here from David Gyrick. No more Sega mini consoles. And apparently Sega aren't planning any more mini consoles. And they say, in this article anyway, we are not
They already made.
we are not a retro company. Okay.
So you're not a current day company. And you're not a retro company.
Maybe just
What
an
kind
old
of
company.
company would you say you are? Defunct? No, I mean, I don't want to see this, dude. Like, look, Sega, man, they're a favorite of mine. I got tons of Sega games up here. I got, Sega, all the Sega consoles over there. I mean, the Genesis to me is one of my top 3 favorites. I don't dislike Sega. I just don't like the fact that they, I don't know, suicide the company out of existence.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. The fuck?
Yeah. And I mean, if they did make another mini console, people would buy it. No doubt about it. Speaking of
and
which,
that's the one
there
thing
was
they seem
the
to be able to do well right now.
yeah, the Super Sega saga seems to have come to a head. If you want to,
Oh boy! Did he finally get the car parked?
just about.
Or is this a different guy?
It's
This is the
looking
same
much
guy?
more scammy. If you go to Ian Lee's YouTube channel, he interviewed him probably before Christmas now. Must be before Christmas. And then he went quiet on him and then sent him a video of himself lying in bed saying he's just come out of the hospital and people should have the money back and nobody has, and it's all a bit of a mess. So check out Ian Lee's YouTube channel and you will see Alejandro and his latest shenanigans.
Oh, Alejandro, guy. What the hell, man?
So one
Dude,
here from David Gyrick again. Team Innocent English patch, and it's rare to see a PCFX game translated, he says. It's not a game I knew about, and it's so I was just reading about it as it came in, and it says it's sort of reminiscent of the original sort of Resident Evils. It's a bit of a survival horror with, the similar sort of camera tricks where, you'll see your player, tank controls to move, and you walk towards the camera and the camera angle will shift to the next camera kind of thing. So I did play about with it a little bit. It's just a lot more primitive and without the polish of the Resident Evils. But it is now in English if you do want to play it. It looks interesting if you can get past the whole controls and camera angles.
They're just the way it's presented and functions.
Yeah. Other than what you see and what you do, it's great.
Yeah, it's a good game other than interacting with it. If you just leave it alone on the shelf, you'll have a good time. So, got one here from Atari. Oh, it's on this monitor. Got one here from who sent it in. Want to give credit, David Gyrich. And it says portables are in the future. Atari announces a new portable. Okay. It looks like any other generic Steam Deck kind of Linux box here. I have no doubt Atari will have some selection of games on it. Okay. Do I really care? Nah. I didn't buy any of the others. I don't see myself buying this. The only thing is it does have like a red D-pad. Guess that makes it Atari.
Probably our most submitted news story, this one.
Yeah, Mike, do you care? I can't
don't
say that
personally, no. I've got lots of handhelds that can do probably everything that can do and a bit more besides. So no, not for me.
And I am one certainly like to buy. I like buying a lot of these little things. They're neat, and I certainly have a large collection of them up here. And many of them I don't really play that much. They're just neat devices. I buy them for the sake of their what they are. And if Atari was doing like an original neat device, I'd kind of be all over it. But this is just a generic tablet, it seems, with just Atari logo on it. And that's not enough for me. I'm just not doing it, Kind of like I was looking at the Switch too. Okay. It's the first time I think I'm just not really caring.
Mm.
And if you're going to come out with the console, I'll wait and see what the games are. If the hardware is like this Sega, say the Sega Genesis, I would buy that just for the hardware, just because it's a neat piece of hardware, especially that Sega CD on it and whatever. It's cool hardware. The games, okay, it's great. It has games, but there's nothing special or unique about like a Switch 2. I mean, the Wii, come on, man, that was the perfect storm of quality hardware and quality software that blew everybody the fuck away. How about you do that again, guys? Because I just don't see this. I don't see this Switch 2 being anything innovative. It's just a Switch. Okay, I already got one. Oh, it's 40% faster. At doing what? Collecting dust? Because that's all it does. I don't have really any games for it. And again, a giant library of shovelware does not replace mega titles. So, pass.
Yeah. Another from David Gyrick. Halo leak, apparently. A massive Halo leak. Reveals content spanning over 26 years and 90 gig of data. Unseen content, dev builds, development tools, etc. If you are interested in that. Yeah, there might be some good stuff in there. So we've got a few Doom ones. I'll do them quickly back to back. There was a Doom capture sent in by, I think Sparkle sent it first of all. Maybe anyone else quickly I can spot down there? No. So this was basically, you know, the capture you get. Click on all the squares with Democrats in or something like that, you know.
That's what makes us human, the ability to find 5 fires. You ever seen that meme where like some AI god is like, what makes you human, you know, unique? I can pick out 5 fire hydrants.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a Doom capture, and you just use your cursor keys and I think spacebar to fire, and you've got to kill 3 enemies in Doom to get past the capture. And then there was one, who sent this in? The Doom Gallery Experience. There's a link to it, and then a link to a YouTube video. It was Lord Neil Barmer. And the Gallery Experience is kind of cool. It gives you the Doom interface, as though you're playing the game, but you're moving around an art gallery looking at all different pictures. And so there's certain things you have to collect, but instead of like your fist in front of you or a weapon, you know, held out in front of you, he's holding a glass of wine because he's all sophisticated going around this art gallery.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so that was pretty neat. And then finally, someone got Doom running in a PDF file because they could. So, yeah, a lot of Doom content this month.
So, got one here from the random one. And he says here, it's Games Radar. 26 years later, Codemasters Chris Southall talks Colin McRae rally. Okay. I loved Colin. I guess 26 years, Michael?
Wow.
Do you believe that?
Crazy.
I remember playing this. I mean, this was one of those games, and especially like later. Remember when the mini PS1s came out? The PS1 that was like that big?
Yeah.
And you know, I always mod chip those. Oh, yeah. So I thoroughly loved Colin McRae Rally. And the first quote here is, we wanted to do something that was an authentic rally experience for the hardware of the time. You know, I think everybody wants to do, you know, a game for the hardware of the time. Just saying. Which,
helps you
it's
sell
not like
more.
you have a roadmap. Yeah. It's not like you have a roadmap ahead going, but in 25 years from that PS5 is out, then we'll do this game. Yeah. No, so this it's quite an article. It's not a quick read, full of pictures. It was like basically it's an interview put to words, expansive. I highly suggest giving it a read. If you play Colin McRae at all, or just want to see kind of, you know, what went into him. You know, one thing I never noticed though is playing Colin McRae. It sounds and feels and looks really good. The graphics look kind of organic. Any stills of this game look god-awful terrible. If you look at the stills, the car looks like it's just at a random angle, just stuck on the screen, and does not look like it's part of the game. But that's an effect of the, I guess, the way it looks in a capture. But Colin McRae Rally is just a wonderful game. I think I'm gonna maybe have to play a little bit of that on my PlayStation Mini. I think. I'm sure Colin McRae Rally's on there. If not, it will be.
Yeah, I think it's on there as standard. One from Random. N64 microphone support hidden in Zelda Majora's Mask for nearly 25 years. Okay, there is an article, a very short one, and a YouTube video. How did they find it? I found the website awful because there's all ads popping up. It's what you get for using a dirty browser. Through reverse engineering, you can enable the lines in the ROM and have microphone support, but it doesn't actually do much because they never really implemented it in the game. It's just there in case they did, so not a huge amount.
Well, it didn't really do much in Zelda either. It was just I think it was the one rhinoceros that you would yell at it, in the Japanese version. But in the American version, you had to drop the bomb, and they didn't have the microphone. So, yeah, the original one did have a microphone. That's an odd feature, an odd piece of hardware to put in a gaming console as a microphone. So,
yeah.
Mike, you sent this one in, and I saw it a couple times, and it's here. Martin Brown passed away.
He did. Team 17 co-founder Martin Brown. I was chatting to him by email before Revival last year, hoping to get him as a guest, and then he went quiet on me. I don't know why. I don't think it's linked to his death in any way, but he no longer wanted to appear, I don't think. And he's been ill for a while. Remember Simon? It might have been the Play Blackpool URAT as well, Scott, where Simon was talking to us. Were you at the last one with Simon? Anyway, Simon was hanging out with Martin Brown and came over and said, that guy does not look well. And he didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, he was always a nice enough guy. I mean, I anytime I ever ran into him, he was a super nice guy. I mean, a damn shame, man. I mean, that's young too, 57, man.
It is. It certainly is.
Anyway, a large article here. Well worth your time, even if you don't know like who Team 17 or Martin Brown is. It's something I think will jog your memory once you start reading, especially if you were ever an Amiga fan. Like I didn't. I mean, honestly, I was an Amiga fan, but I didn't necessarily know Team 17. Yeah, I remember I've seen tons of their games, but it wasn't until years later that I really knew what all they did. But damn shame.
Damn shame indeed. One here from, and I've scrolled down. Who was it from? I was on it a moment ago. What's on my shelf? Regarding Elite Systems licensing, he said, greetings. I'll move the microphone and myself slightly to read it. When researching a new game titled Beyond the Ice Palace 2, it led me to the wiki of the original game published by Elite Systems, all the way back in 1988. That game featured in a film as well. Was it Big? Can't remember. It was a film like that anyway. He was playing the game. Can you remember something good from that year? Anyways, Elite Systems isn't defunct, but an article on their perfectly adequate 1995 website says they are starting a game license auction house where devs and publishers can sell their IP. And it is, it reminds me actually of the ScumVM website, which is similarly 90s based. I just don't get it. So I'm on the auction site, and their latest listings, you can buy all the rights, apparently, for Dragon's Lair for $20,000. I don't see how that
doesn't make sense.
Because also Chucky Egg is the same price. Now, these just placeholders, but it says latest listings, and there is one that says test auction, but the others don't, and they've got different prices.
Well, hold on. This isn't an Ely thing, is it?
I don't think so. Although it has got Eli in the name, Elite.
No. Are you sure this isn't Eli TE?
Eli
or something
Trading
like
Enterprises. That spells elite.
See?
But the whole
Oh,
thing,
please tell me it is.
I'm going to post it in chat so the people on YouTube can have a look at it. Hello to those still in
objectively worst
YouTube after
businessmen in
the
video games.
issues. It's just, I don't know. It makes no sense. I'm certainly not going to give them $20,000 for all the rights to Dragon's Lair, only to find out that I don't actually own them when I make a game.
Wow.
Crazy.
That is, Mike, that's incredible. So, got one here from Random Dave, and he says that the Atari Jaguar is coming to the Analog Pocket. Analog Pocket, fine device. Glad to see it there. But, yeah, Tempest 2000. So, Tempest 2000 is coming to the Analog Pocket.
Cool.
If you didn't already know.
John Romero clarifies how to pronounce jib. It's pronounced jib because it comes from giblet. So there you go.
Cool.
One here from Random. It's a YouTube video. I haven't watched it. Let's see how long it is. I'm not going to watch it now. It's about an hour. 35 minutes. What happened to the world's largest tube TV? And it's something of a documentary into what was supposedly the world's largest tube TV. You can watch it at your leisure.
I had one that I got rid of. My neighbor Mike, actually, he wanted it for a showcase cabinet because it was a massive tube. It was one of the biggest ones made. And I didn't want to deal with this fucking thing, dude. It was so heavy. And so I told I told Mike, I said, you can have it, but you and your sons need to come over and carry it the hell out of my house, and I don't want to have to touch it. And he was like, okay, cool. So he ended up stripping it down and putting the tube into a showcase cab. So he was happy. Got one here from Gareth Hamer, and it says that Half-Life 2 Episode 3 Interlude Demo. So a demo of Half-Life 2 Episode 3 Interlude is now available. Okay. So it's going to attempt to recreate the events of Half-Life 2 Episode 3. Okay. So I guess it's a mod. Yeah, it's a mod. Yeah, I wasn't a giant Half-Life person. I probably wouldn't go look at it, but if you were a giant Half-Life person, this is your moment. Got another one here, SNK. They are opening up a new studio, and the studio is for, Mike, you're going to love this, fighters.
Yay! That's what we need. A studio dedicated to making fighters.
You can walk right and have a fight, or stand right there and beat them up. So that's funny that they would do. King of Fighters Studio. I think the time for that would have been right around 1992.
Yeah. I missed a link out on my page, so I'm just trying to post it in so I don't forget later when I do the show notes.
And Spinal made it 96 minutes late. That's all right. We fucked around for 60 of it, so
yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Luckily, we're still going. And thank you
now,
for those
Mike,
who are still there after all the issues.
With the coming excitement of the Switch 2 and possibly games, and the industry being in the state that it's in, Russia has decided they're going to jump into it because everybody, of course, is sanctioning the shit out of them, and they can't import stuff. So in between, genociding Ukrainian youth and bombing civilian housing, the average Ruski likes to kick back with a video game. So what are they going to do? Well, the picture shows somebody pointing towards a screen, which looks like an industrial process control. So like valves, levels, temperatures, flow rates. And he's pointing at it as Vladimir looks on. And everybody in the room looks all excited. So that's that. And the story here is Russia reveals details for a domestic console. And people are already making fun. Look, they beat us to it. The chips will not be anywhere near Xbox or PlayStation's level. And that's the pull quote. Yeah, so they're working on 2 exclusive game consoles. It uses the Elbrus processor. Never heard of it. Admits it's weaker than Xbox or PlayStation. Okay. It might only run weak or extremely simple titles. Okay. You're really selling it here. Wait. Mikhail Kenedovich? What the fuck?
This is my game console. It is shit.
Oh, dude. You don't know what I wouldn't fucking give. What I wouldn't give to turn on, you click on a thing, hello, comrades. I am here today to tell you of new great and powerful console. My chief engineer, Shansky here. And now for our first game, Moose and Squirrel. Oh, I love it. Yeah, good luck with that shit.
So one here from Random Dave. Watch GTA 3 on the Sega Dreamcast. It's incredible. Now, so I was looking at this, and the first line in the description says, Happy New Year, a new impossible port has arrived. And I thought, well, why would it necessarily be impossible for the Dreamcast to run GTA 3? You know, it's similar sort of era. I mean, a little bit before Xbox, but similar sort of era. But then it only has 16 meg of memory. So I guess that's probably why they say an impossible port. But it is fully playable from start to finish on a stock Dreamcast using the game burned to a CDR. So, yeah, I guess it is kind of incredible that it plays GTA 3 all the way through.
Well, got an interesting one here. This one I had to really dig out my memory. I thought for a moment they were talking about a whole different thing, but it's from David Gyrich, and it's the death and rebirth of Hal. And I was like, you mean like from the movie, or So no, there was a game. Yeah, Metal Slayer Glory. Like it, it was a Famicom, big deal. And Hal ended up producing some pretty major titles for Nintendo, but I guess they had a lot of issues along the way. But anyway, there's a huge article here. I can't possibly skim through and summarize it, but it is the history of it. It's dude, this is one of the bigger articles that we've gotten. It's more like a little encyclopedia entry. But so it gives you the history, it tells you what they're up to now, and it looks like some new stuff. So it's kind of neat, like when they did the Kojima documentary and that Ask Iwata, which actually, funny enough, it's pictured right here. Ask Iwata. And so, yeah, we're going to have to save that up and give it a read.
Another one you can read here from David Gyrich, Punch-Out dead? Is Punch-Out dead and buried for good, this article says on Nintendo Life. Basically, due to character design, I'm guessing there are some stereotypes that they no longer feel comfortable with. The thing about stereotypes, though, they're based on fact.
Stupid fuckers don't really generally want you to know that.
No.
I hate stupid fuckers. As a stereotype. So, what one do we have here? Yeah, okay. Wow, this is reminiscent of the oldie days, Michael. Gareth Hamer sent one here. It says they found treasure on an abandoned ship held treasure for 30 years. 50 arcade machines found. So as soon as I hear a ship, I hear salt water, and I think, yeah, this isn't good.
So this is one that we covered years ago. It's about the Duke of Lancaster, where some people from UK VAC went and did a raid on it, hired cranes and trucks and lifted the machines off. And for some reason, I've seen this story in a couple of places, maybe 3 places. It seems to have just circulated again. Someone's posted it maybe thinking it was new, and some people have, copied it over. But, yeah, it's the original one we talked about. Remember as well when we covered it last time, Sean Stevenson had been on there, with his family and stuff, when it was still, an active ship. It was basically a ship that was docked, and it had arcades on, family entertainment, bar, things like that. And once it shut down, they just left the machines on it.
Games? Yeah, I mean, I know some ferries have games in them, but it always seemed like such an odd thing to have aboard a ship is games.
Yeah.
Especially the environment. The salt spray, the moisture, the tipping. I mean, it doesn't seem ideal, but
no.
Yeah. So we got one here from Gareth Hamer. It says, it worked for Billy, send in a tape. He held the world record on the Nintendo 64 for 15 years, but no one believed him until he found a old VHS tape. So, yeah, it looks here like somebody played Wave Race 64 and actually got a speed run on it, and nobody believed him until he found a VHS tape. And yeah, there you go. His record on Sunny Beach has stood for 5,667 days.
Wow. One from David Gyrick. Madden knows all, he says. Apparently, don't know how true it is. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But the New York Jets owner apparently used Madden NFL video games to make hiring decisions. Possibly. Doubtful. A new C64 HDMI out, according to Lord Neil. You can buy one on this link or watch a video on it on the other link. €109. Run, stop, restore. An SPL HD 64 HDMI modulator for the Commodore 64. Replaces the stock modulator. Micro HDMI out provided. So a little bit of using the RF opening. So open up your C64, put this in, and you get HDMI out. Apparently. We did. So I was messing around at the museum with the C64 and hooked it up with a SCART lead to a monitor, and it looked superb. Never seen one running on SCART before. I've only ever really run them on RF. It looked fantastic just on SCART.
Yeah, I do think it is a wonderful era, especially with a lot of these new high module based cards. We're gonna see just incredible things. Full featured sound, video cards for retro PCs. It's just going to be an amazing. Any card you want on any PC. Oh, you want the equivalent of AWE32 in a fucking C64? No problem. We'll emulate that fucking card and make it talk to the C64. So I predict a wonderful future for new expansion hardware. So got a couple here. Mike, I did go through and delete some of the ones that were just, because the list was so long, I deleted some of the ones that were repeats of what we did. And now it's screwing with me. Okay. So I think this is, yes, it is. So remember, I don't know, about a year back, there was the effort by the Australian guys. I got to check in on that, see how it's going. Where they were printing a computer space replica cabinet.
Yeah.
So this is from Peter O'Brien. This other group of folks got together and they did Space Race. Now, this to me is the value. And again, oh my God, I want to, every time I see this, Mike, this drives me up the wall. So, one, Space Race, really cool cabinet. It's kind of like Computer Space in a way, but also kind of not. It is a fiberglass cabinet. It's wonderfully complex, and I definitely could see printing one of these up to make a replica computer Space Race. I could see doing this. Space Race is so rarer than Computer Space. The odds of finding one is next to nothing. I would like an authentic one in the collection, and maybe one day, but man, I could definitely see, like, in between prints of other things, I could see knocking one of these out, because then you could emulate Space Race, no problem.
Yeah.
Now,
so just for info, this is the same people who last year did a 3D printed computer space, but not based off a model, based off, they built it up, and it was pretty awful once you got to the top round the screen. I think it was that was off. This one, I think, is done from space. Yeah. This one, I think, is done from a proper 3D scan.
And kudos to them for scanning that thing. But there is a way to do Metal Flake. There's a way not to do Metal Flake. One way to do Metal Flake is you mix up your base, and you spray your base black, for example, or maybe green, whatever your base color is. Usually actually just black. And, like, for example, my Computer Space is black. It's the actual base paint. Then you mix up an intermediate coat, and the intermediate coat has Metal Flake in it. The Metal Flake has, like, say, blue or green or whatever that is. And you use a large bore nozzle that lets those flakes pass through, and you spray up layers until you get basically near full hiding of the black, and now you obtain the Metal Flake color. Then you very carefully do some prep work, and then you clear coat over the top of that. So what you don't do is mix it up in a cup and paint it on with a brush. So the first thing I see in this article is the YouTube still of the guy holding a cup and a brush trying to brush on Metal Flake. It's going to look like ass, okay? Now, I know they're over in England. There's nothing I could do for them. Like, if these guys were in the U.S., I would say, look, print up a second copy, drive the thing to my house, drop it off. I'll call you in a few weeks, and I'll have it painted for you. And then now you've got a beautifully painted cabinet that's indistinguishable from the fiberglass, right? And I'll do that for free in exchange for you print up the pieces for me for another one. I would offer that to these guys, although they're all the way over in England. Somebody with a paint gun and a compressor, help these motherfuckers out. I mean, it's good work. They scanned it. They printed it. Yeah. Don't try and paint Metal Flake with a brush. Stop it. Mike, you don't have a compressor and an HVLP gun laying around in the basement, do you?
I don't have a basement, but no.
Shit. All right, well, you start in the basement. We'll get them working on the paint.
Okay. I got a spade in the shed.
So, got one here from Gareth Hamer, and Sony is going to stop making Blu-rays for good. Yeah, I've seen a couple of articles. I saw a related one that. So let me throw another thing in it here. There is a wonderful documentary kind of out there. I thought it was going to be like maybe a 6 or 7, like a whole season, and I've not seen any of it since the first 2. So I think it was just 2 parts. But the name of the documentary is How Music Got Free. Have you seen that one, Michael?
No. Oh, yes, I think I have, yes.
About the CD piracy and all that? And how the guys would, that worked at the CD factory would steal the CDs and rip them and put them on the internet. And I mean, good documentary. It's really fucking cool. I highly recommend it. But anyway, I know that those factories in North Carolina closed down and went to Mexico. And from what I read, I think it was either the last factory or the last factory in this one company. They didn't make it clear, but they discontinued producing disc media. So if you want to get a disc manufactured, where can you get it manufactured? I mean, as long as there's a reasonable all year round demand, there's a company that will stay open to do it, I'm sure. But it looks like that demand is vaporizing right in front of us, which means now they'll have an excuse to go to no disc, no media consoles, and then we'll have our online store where everything's revocable forever.
Mhm.
Video games went to shit.
One here from. I wish I'd. Oh, it's from me. I keep clicking on things. I'll do that next and then click on something else. Shadow of the Colossus film gets a positive update more than 10 years after its director was first announced. So, it's not my favourite game. I can see why people love it. It could make a fairly decent film if done right. You know, huge creatures, warriors fighting big creatures. What's not to love? But I don't know why it's taken so long.
I got a weird one here, Mike. This one I missed, and I guess it had come up before, but went away and is back, maybe. New handheld. Gareth Hamer sends this in. And it said it was announced, but didn't launch at CES 2025. But My Arcade is reviving it with an expected release later this year. So I guess it was what they announced it in 2020. And instead of $110, it's going to be $149. Well, yeah, to make anything with a usable screen and of any quality, you're talking at least that much. But it looks like it takes SNES on one side, Genesis on the other, cartridges, and then you flip it upside down to to play the other one, I guess, or the cartridge is just upside down. I don't know. It doesn't really say, but
'Cause cartridges.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I already have a way to play SNES, mobile and Genesis mobile, with original cartridges. But I kind of like the idea. Would I buy one? I don't know. I think this is one of those things where if I saw it in person and I was like, all right, that's just a cool thing to own, a cool piece of hardware for the sake of the hardware. Yeah, maybe. We'll see what becomes of it.
Yeah. Peter Gibbs feels very similar about it. His
Except he
email says
horrible thing.
horrible SNES / Mega Drive thing. Yeah. One here, Dreamcast retrospective from David Gyrick. And it is a YouTube video, about 20 minutes long. Sega Dreamcast, the most ambitious console. With a very enthusiastic presenter. I haven't watched it. You can watch it at your leisure. Not seen that guy's channel before, actually. John Cartwright. Some of you may be familiar. I'm not. An interesting one here. Nintendo give their opinion, according to David Gyrick, and he adds, not many will agree. And it's basically Nintendo's attorneys saying...
Oh, stop it with this shit, Nintendo.
Why emulators are illegal.
This has been settled. It's like, you know what? It's like one of the issues we have here in the U.S. with the police is from time to time they turn up and somebody's filming an event and they say, you can't film that.
Yeah.
And the citizen says, yeah, the fuck I can. This has been through every court in the land. Mm-hmm. You can film the police in the commission of their duties. Good, bad, or indifferent. It's okay. And then they grab the person's camera, and then they go to court, and then they lose every freaking time. Just unbelievable. But, yeah, we've already established, I mean, like, it is illegal, say, to grab the EEPROM, the ROM image, for the BIOS, but as long as you can absolutely emulate it. So it says to begin with, are emulators illegal or not? This point is often debated. While you can't immediately claim the emulator itself is illegal, it can become illegal depending on how it's used. Okay, so if you then obtain the ROMs illegally and put them into the emulator, it's an illegal thing. I don't fucking care, Nintendo. I just don't. So what? I mean, I've got every one of your products that you manufactured. I'm not considering buying your new one because you're not coming out with compelling games anymore for it. And I don't really care what you think of how I play the games I bought 40, 30, 20, or 10 years ago. Not my concern. You got my money. I bought. I mean, I've got stat. I mean, look here, Mike. I'm gonna lean over here. What do we got? Let's see. This is just 3DS, one stack, right? I got whole shelves, stacks and stacks and stacks. Off the top here, yeah, Game Boy, right? Dozens of such stacks, right? I gave them oceans of money. I bought tons of their product. And if I want to play that ROM for that game I own on whatever device I want, I'm going to do it. And the more you fight and the more you argue and the more you do these things, the less I like you. How about just shut up like everybody else does? Yeah. Just don't talk about emulators, you know? If some guy puts all your freaking Switch 2 games up on a website, sue him, take it down. I don't have any. I get that, but don't just leave emulators alone, man. If you were doing your job, we wouldn't have to do that.
Okay, one here from David Gyrick, $100 gaming. GTA 6 could cost as much as $100. When is what did he say? When would it be too much? So I mentioned, may have been last month or the month before, the new Indiana Jones game. Looks interesting, something I would play. I looked at it on Steam just to see the pricing of it, and without any offers or anything, the game was £86. I ain't paying that for a game. I wouldn't pay £70 for a game. I don't like paying £50 for a game. I can't remember the last time I did because I don't play new games. But $100 games, I mean, we're getting there. We will get there. It's just, I don't know, it's a huge amount of money. But then
I don't know if I'm ready either. I mean, like, what are you giving me for $100? That to me is the main question, right?
Yeah.
What am I getting for? So $100 is a number, okay? Okay, like for example, this RC kit I was talking about earlier, okay? I think I paid 140 on eBay, maybe slightly less. Great value, tremendous. Let's say this kit was $220, which a lot of the to me releases are. All right, $220. Will I pay that? Yeah, a little on the high side. I paid 140, whatever. Big grin on my face. Wonderful product, fair price, right? You know, I get it. Things, you know, $100 item. Let me find a $100 item. All right. No, that's not $100. Yeah, okay, yeah. This was not 100. This is that little computer business, right?
Yeah.
Car computer. It's got some neat things. It was a half of 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I feel like I got $50 worth, right? Yeah, cool. Okay. Any number of things that could be in the $100, you know, category. Okay. So something can be worth $100. I'm not unconvinced that there isn't a game. When I say gaming, not necessarily a physical product, because consoles, you know, readily exceed that by a factor of 4. But could there be a game out there that's worth $100? I think so. Is it Grand Theft fucking 6? No, it's not. What would a $100 game look like? So
it's,
what would have to bring a lot to the table that a $50 to $60 game didn't? This is not that. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but this is not that.
So it's interesting as a pricing model. So let's say $100 game as a number, like you say. Let's say even on the low side, let's say a modern game is 20 hours. That's $5 an hour. You go to a movie that's 2 hours long, you're paying more than $10. So for an hourly rate, it's cheaper than going to the movies. But it's just that initial hit of $100 for a video game. And it might be 20 hours, might be 100, it might be 6, and it might be awful. You know, there's no guarantee of quality. So I don't know. It's a big number.
I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm just saying it would have to be. The value would have to be there. It would have to be twice as good as a $50 game.
Yeah.
And it would have to be, arguably, because that $100 bite that you just took, it's got to be twice as good as a $60 game, which is kind of the price for a premium game today. Now, in all fairness, look, video game pricing has been static more or less since the 80s. A game used to be $40. A super, like, amazing game used to be 60.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably, that hasn't changed. That was the 90s. That was even today. You go buy a top shelf game, it might be 60, maybe 70 US dollar, you know. And yeah, I don't know. But I sure as shit for $100, it needs to be better than twice as good as a $50 or $60 game. So now got an article here that was sent in. It says a new report says PC games are outselling console games, calling PC gaming a bright spot in a troubled industry. Hey, why is it a troubled industry? What's wrong? Are they not making games for people to buy? So the CEO of an investment firm put a report out called The State of Video Gaming in 2025. The slideshow, which incorporates data from market research forums, blah, blah, things aren't great. Wow. Following a decade-long growth wave between 2011, 2021, the industry's growth has stalled. Why is that? Because I bought all the Funko bobbleheads I want to buy, and that number is 0. Okay. And, dude, you can see this chart here, Mike. This chart basically goes up, 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 tons of money, tons of games, and then flat lines because they stopped making games.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, because it says here, Epilion, the analysis outfit, attributes PC gaming's continued growth to many compounding advantages over the console ecosystem, like a more extensive release library with greater backwards compatibility. Backwards compatibility, maybe. Okay. What's more, PC's gaming momentum is still growing strong, thanks to cross-releases of console exclusives. Advances in portable PC gaming devices like SteamOS and, well, Roblox. Hundreds of millions of children growing up on Roblox are unlikely to ask for a $500 console to play a AAA game. Okay, maybe. But for those of us who go out there and buy a $500 console, maybe even all 3 of the leading consoles on the market, and, you know, you aren't making games for us, eventually we'll stop buying them too. Oh, I don't know, maybe like the Switch 2. And then everybody's fucked. So how about you get back in the studio and knock out some of them their games you used to knock out.
Wouldn't that be
However, as I was saying to this young fellow I know, I do have, 50 years of video gaming history on tap. And all I have to do is, if there's a game I didn't play or want to replay, and new games are coming out from Vintage Hardware every day. So, and these games are pretty much just as good as the indie games. Like the indie games, simply because of the size and scale of gaming. Like I said, indie guy, he's not going to develop Fallout 5. It's not happening, right? But he might develop a really good, cool retro-style game that I'm not buying a modern console to play because the hardware is completely unutilized. However, for the Sega Genesis, P47 MD2 will get a physical release 35 years after completion. So it was completed as a sequel to P47 2, 1988. Didn't get released. It looks like it got finished up and released and is coming out. Retrobit has it in case you're looking for it. And yeah, it's what is it? It's $55 US. Okay, $55 for a 25 whole game. I'm cool with that. It's a good game. On classic hardware. Sounds good.
So, one here from Peter O'Brien, a new Genesis side-scrolling shooter. It's based around, it's called P47 2 MD. It's based around the P47 aircraft. It was a cancelled game from...
Mike, that's what I just did.
Way back when. You just clicked on it.
That's what I just read.
Oh. You just did that one?
Yeah, I just did that one.
All right, okay.
And I'm going to do another one while you're looking for your next one. So
How did I
this
miss
one
that?
is from, I don't know, this one, I've done 100 times because you're looking ahead,
Yeah,
trying to get
yeah.
ready for the next thing. And then, so Origin bites the dust. This is from David Gyrick. And he says, enjoy the all digital future. Funny thing, David, we were just talking about that. EA announced the guillotine will fall on Origin this April, thanks to Microsoft abandonment of 32-bit Windows.
Good.
If you don't like it, use a newer computer. Okay. Yeah. So EA will have a update your operating system for the EA app on people running 32-bit Windows. Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, first of all, I'm not okay with Windows. I'm not going to use it ever. No. And that's one of the reasons why I won't switch to PC gaming. I run Linux. I'm not going to run Windows. And it's going from Windows is no longer an operating system that you own dominion over. It's like renting or leasing access to somebody else's computer now. No, absolutely not. So yeah, but in and of the like, you remember when Windows 95 came out and it ran 16-bit code, and OS2 Warp was out. Now I was running OS2 Warp. OS2 Warp ran Windows better than Windows, and then they went to I think 32-bit code for Windows 95, and OS2 Warp couldn't support that. So you could run Windows 3.1.1 applications on OS2 Warp, but you could not run Windows with 95 applications, which meant you couldn't run any new applications. So OS2 Warp died that moment. Damn shame, because I liked OS2 Warp. But that said, yeah, I mean, Windows, any OS has to evolve. I get it, but not for me because I'm not using Windows.
But the Origin app in particular as well is just awful. So I remember when Millie had an Origin game. I guess it was one of the Sims versions, the Sims 3 or the Sims 4, whatever it was, and you had to run it through an Origin client. So I'm like trying to get her to play other games, and like she's now I want to play the Sims. So okay, so I put it on a laptop, but you had to launch the Origin client. It phoned home, and then it would run the game. And every time she switched the laptop on, ran the Origin app, it crashed. And so I searched for the error. It's delete this file, this file, this file, relaunch the app, jobs are good, and it'll work. So I just wrote a batch file that kind of did all of that, did all the deletion, relaunched the app, the executable, and then went away. So she would just run the batch file, delete the files that were causing it to crash, then launch the game, and she could play it. It was just a horrible piece of software.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
No. One from Random Dave. This is the Tang FPGA in a consumer device. It's a console that is smaller than a SNES gamepad, and it plays NES, Super NES, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, GBA, Mega Drive, Amiga, and more, starting at just $69. And it's open source for your creativity. Pre-orders launching soon. So, interesting device. I mean, I don't know how many of these devices the market can support, but interesting that it's FPGA and it's open source. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a million ways to do that stuff.
Yeah, and there's so many options with it. All right, Mike, I believe that wraps it up for us on the news. I don't have any left on my screen. Do you?
Just Blu-ray. I don't know if you've done that.
We covered that one.
Did we? Blu-ray
Yep,
mini
so
disc
he's in
becoming
production.
retro. Yeah.
Yep.
And physical games decline. Oh, one from
Which
me.
is a link to the...
Yeah. One from me. A classic 35-year-old point-and-click horror is back from the dead. It's been remade by the same solo dev that created it initially. In the article, link in the show notes, as always, as with all the things we talk about. You can go on there and you can download the original game. So I did that. And the launcher is a batch file, and it launches in DOSBox. You could probably run DOSBox on Linux and get it to launch as well. Interface is a bit clunky, but looks like, an interesting little game there. I just had a few minutes on the original version. I don't think this remake is ready for sale yet, but not a game I had heard of before. It is called, and I should have clicked on it to tell you what it's called. It is called The Last Hall of Darkness, first released 35 years ago. So there you go. And that brings us, as Scott said, to the end of the live news. We had a few people in chat. Some stayed with us, some joined us late, some left early, and some even stayed through all the shenanigans and the multiple deaths of my ground loop. So thank you for anyone who joined us. Show will be out in a couple of days' time when Scott does the hardware flashback and I edit this mess into some sort of semblance of order. And as always, we will see you again next month. So, good night, everybody. Say good night, Scott.
Good night, Scott.
Good night, Scott.